Hello, everyone. This is Ms. Ortega, your pre-calculus teacher. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it to work today, but I'm going to go ahead and prepare this video for you so that you will not fall behind compared to the other classes, okay? I'm going to be presenting this as if I was in class. I would have loved to have more class participation on it, but I'm going to try my very best to get this through to you guys as best as I can. All we're going over today is simple algebra review. Okay, this is the algebra skills that you need to make sure you have before we jump into the pre-calculus material. Okay, so make sure you're paying attention. If this seems easy to you, that's excellent. If it's not, then hopefully you learn something from this so that once we get to the pre-cal material, it won't be as difficult as it shouldn't be. Okay, so again, the objective for today is students will be able to recall techniques, skills, and terminology on solving 1 and 2 steps equations. Okay, so bear with me, take out some papers so you can follow along with me and practice the following problems we're going to be talking about. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the first slide here. The question is asking, what does this mean? So as you can see here, let me take a picture so that I can write on it. As you can see here, we have two equations. They're exactly the same, but let's go ahead and focus on this one. What does this mean? What if you were to read this to me, what would you say? I'm pretty sure a lot of you are like, oh, that's 6 plus 3x equals to 5x plus 2. You're correct. That is not wrong. But to be a little bit more specific, I wanted to make sure I emphasize on this. What does this mean right here when you have the 3 and the x right next to each other, or the 5 and the x right next to each other? What are they doing? What operation are they doing here? If you have a letter and a number right next to each other, that means that they are multiplying. So that means that here we have 3 times x and 5 times x. So the complete sentence here would actually be 6 plus 3 times x equals to 5 times x plus 2. That right there will list all the operations that we're going to be doing in this equation. Okay, now this isn't only a statement, but this is also a question. It's telling me that this side of the equation is equal to this side of the equation. So the question is, what does x have to be in order for this to be true? In order for this to be exactly the same as this side. And so that right there is when we do all the solving techniques. So before we jump into the solving skills and everything, I wanted to make sure I emphasize on the equal sign. Think of the equal signs as think of the equation as a balance, and this is the right and the center. Remember that whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side as well. Remember, this is the center. This is right in the middle. Think of it as a little balance. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side as well. I have this little YouTube video. Let me go ahead and play it for you guys right here. Again, I have this example. Let me mute him. Again, here we have a balance. And think of this. Think of this as the center as the equal sign. And so again, as this man shows us here, let me forward it. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side so that it can stay balanced. Okay, so they can be equal to each other. That's what an equation shows here. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side. If you add 2, then on the other side, you have to add 2 so that it can stay balanced, so it can stay equal. Okay, and if you keep adding, then you have to make sure you do it to the other side as well. And then later in the video, it shows, but what if we take away? Well, then if you subtract from one side, then you have to subtract the same on the other side as well. So mainly with this video, I just wanted to show you that, again, we need to make sure that we remember whenever we're solving an equation such as these, we need to remember that whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this first problem right here. Okay, I want to solve for x, meaning I want to leave x completely by itself. So as you remember from your basic algebra, you think, oh, letters con letters and numbers con numbers. That is correct. But again, we have them here on opposite sides of the equation. So I want to put all my letters together. Let me emphasize here, this is my put all my numbers with numbers, and then I want to put all my letters with letters together. And remember, you always keep the sign that's on the left. This is a positive 6, positive 3x, positive 5x, positive 2, positive 2. Always keep the signs on the left of every single number. So I want to combine my letters con letters and numbers con numbers. And again, it doesn't matter with what you start with. You can start with the letters first. You can move this one to the opposite side or this one to the opposite side, or you can start with the numbers first. It doesn't matter as long as whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side. So I'm pretty sure some of you are like, I'm going to start with the letters first. Okay, let me start with the letters first. If I were to move the 3x to the opposite side of the equal sign, And we can combine these two. If we're going to move it to the opposite side of the equal sign, I have to use the opposite sign. So what's the opposite of adding? I will subtract this. When I need to subtract 3x, and what I do to one side, I have to subtract 3x from the other side. Why not these? Because these are numbers. Here we can only put letters with letters, and we can only put those two numbers together. So let's see what we have here. The positive 3x minus 3x, that goes to 0. So we don't have to worry about it anymore. So all I'm left with is 6 equals 2, and 5x minus 3x. I have 5x and I take away 3x. How many x's am I left with? I'm only left with 2x. And I bring down the rest, plus 2. Yay, so I already combined all my letters together, and now I have to combine all my numbers together. In this case, again, my numbers were the 6, the positive 6, and the positive 2. Now, I can move the 6 to the opposite side, but guess what? If I move the 6 to the opposite side, I'm left with nothing here. And my goal is to leave the x completely by itself. So since this one is completely by itself here, the only thing that I can do here is move the positive 2 to the opposite side. So since I'm going to move it to the opposite side, I use the opposite sign. Oops. The opposite side. So -2 and -2. All right, so what are we left with? So positive 2 minus 2, that goes to 0. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And what are we left with? 6 minus 2, that equals to positive 4, equals to 2 times x. Yay, so I already put all my letters together and all my numbers together. But again, at the end of the day, my goal is to leave x completely by itself. And remember what I told you guys in the beginning. What does it mean when we have a letter and a number right next to each other? That means that they are multiplying. Oh, so in order for me to leave the x by itself, I need to get rid of the 2. And just like everywhere else, we have to do the opposite operation. What's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So the only way I can get rid of the 2 here is to divide by the same. Divide by the positive 2. And again, what I do to one side, I have to do it to the other side. And so 2 divided by 2, what's 2 divided by 2? That becomes a perfect 1. So since it's just a 1, we don't have to put it anymore. That goes away. That's invisible 1 right there. 1x equals 2, and 4 divided by 2, that equals to 2. And there you go. Once your x is completely by itself, that means that that is your answer. So if I were to check again, instead of the x, if I were to put a 2, let's see, what do we get? I got 6 plus, oops, let me fix that real quick. I've got 6 plus 3. Instead of the x, I'm going to substitute in a 2 equals to 5. Oh, and see another x, I'm going to substitute it a 2 plus 2. That keeps getting a little messy right here. Plus 2. And let's double check our answer. Well, first thing here, remember your germ test. First, we got to multiply 3 times 2. That gives me 6. And bring down the rest. Plus 6 equals to 5 times 2. That gives me 10. Why does it keep doing that? Let me fix that. That gives me 10 plus 2. Well, what's 6 plus 6? That gives me 12 equals to, and 10 plus 2, that gives me 12. Ooh, what does this mean here? That means that my answer is correct. I mean, it means that in order for this to be balanced, in order for them to be equal, x had to equal to 2. And that's what all of these skills, all of these algebra stuff that we do, that's what they mean here. And the reason why I put it over here is because, again, even if some of you wanted to start with the numbers with number first, instead of starting with the letters with letters, it doesn't matter. At the end, we're going to end up with the same number because, look, let me show you. What if some of you was like, let's move the 6 first, ma'am? Okay, let's move the 6 to the opposite side. So I use the opposite sign. All right, so that goes away. 6 minus 6, that goes to 0. End up with positive 3x equals to 5x. And positive 2 minus 6, oh, we have more negatives. So my answer is going to be negative what? Negative, what's positive 2? Oh, let me fix this real quick. I got 5x. And since we have more negatives, it's going to be a negative. And 2 minus 6, that gives me a negative 4. All right, make sure you practice those adding and subtracting integers. But then after that, we put our numbers with numbers together. Now we got to put our letters with letters. Now notice that the 3x is already by itself, so I cannot move this one. So the only one that I can move is the 5x to the opposite side. So I use the opposite sign, minus 5x minus 5x. That goes away, 5x minus 5x, that goes to 0. And I'm left with 3x minus 5x. Well, we have more negatives, so mine's going to be negative 2x equals to, and I bring down the rest, negative 4. And again, all my letters are together, all my numbers are together. So at the end, to leave the x by itself, since they are multiplying, to get rid of the negative 2, I need to divide by the same, divide by negative 2. Now, let's say you have forgotten to put the negative. That means that you would still be left with the negative x. So you want to get rid of everything. So you divide by the same, divide by negative 2. And again, if you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other side, divide by negative 2. So now this becomes a perfect 1. And you're left with 1x equals to, and negative 4 divided by negative 2. Negative divided by negative becomes positive, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. See how regardless, whatever we start with, we still get the same exact answer? Again, as long as whatever you do to one side, you do it to the other side, your answer is going to be the same. Okay, so this was very, very basic. You gotta make sure you know all of these skills right here. So what I'm gonna want you to do now is I'm gonna put this next slide. Let me here. I'm gonna put this next slide, and I have these 4 problems for you. Take out a sheet of paper and try your best to work out these 4 problems in about 5 minutes. So if I can ask the substitute to please put pause on the video and give them about 5 minutes to practice on these. Now, please practice and show yourself what you do know and what you don't know. Okay, it doesn't matter what Juanita next to you or Pancho next to you knows. Is I want to know and you want to know what you do know. If you don't know something, that means you gotta make sure you practice. Okay, because we gotta make sure we have these skills before we get to the pre-calculus material. Okay, so if there's a substitute, could please put pause on the video right now and give them about 5 minutes to work on these, and then we'll get back to you. Okay, try your best. Alrighty, so I assume all of you have already tried all of these 4 problems. And the next slide, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the answers. So these are the answers you should have gotten in those 4 problems. The first one should have been x equals to negative 17. The second one, x equals to 4. The third one, x equals to 2. And the fourth one, x equals to 2. Okay, I would have loved to go over these if some of you had any questions in class, but for now, if you got one wrong, 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. Make sure you circle it and go back and double check your work. See and find your mistake and where you may have gone wrong to have gotten the incorrect answer. Okay, and also at the end, make sure you help each other. If you have any questions, again, just make sure you keep the safe distance and still be wearing your mask, okay? But for now, again, double check your answers. And if you got one wrong, make sure you circle it and you go back and double check it later. Okay, but let me go ahead and jump to the next section. The next section here is what about these right here? What about these problems? They're the exact same thing, but notice how there's a little bit more involved now with parentheses and everything. If I were to read this equation, it's going to be 4 plus 4. I'm sorry, p plus 4 times. You remember that whenever you have parentheses, that technically means multiplication. So it's going to be 4 times p plus 2 equals to negative 24 plus p. So again, we have more operations here, but like, don't let this scare you. It's going to be the same process here. Okay, first thing you want to do here is to get rid of the parentheses. And again, whenever you have anything next, whenever you have parentheses, that means you're going to multiply times whatever is to the left of it. And what do I have? A positive 4. Remember, you always keep the sign that's on the left. This is a positive 4. So if you have parentheses, that means you're going to multiply that number that's right on the left with everything inside. So to get rid of those parentheses, I'm going to have to multiply positive 4 times p and positive 4 times positive 2. Okay, now let's see what we get. Let me bring this down because we haven't touched this. We have p, and then positive 4 times positive p, that gives me a positive 4p, and positive 4 times positive 2, that gives me a positive 8. And then we bring down the rest, equals to negative 24 plus p. All right, and look, now it looks more similar to what we were already working with. I mean, that seems scary to you. That's all we have to do. Always multiply with what's on the left of it. If it's a positive 4, or if it's a negative 4, then again, make sure you distribute the negative as well. Remember, you always keep the sign that's on the left. Well, now in this case, all we have to do is letters with letters and numbers with numbers. Now, let me show you a common mistake that I keep seeing every single year. Make sure you guys tell me, what is wrong with this? Oh, look, P and P letters con letters. Oh, minus P minus P. Why is this incorrect? I'm pretty sure some of you are thinking about it in your head and not saying it out loud. But why is this incorrect? Because we're combining like terms, when we're combining letters with letters, we only use the opposite sign if we're moving into the opposite side. Are we moving into the opposite side here? No, right? So since they are in the same side, we just keep the same side. All we have to do is combine them. We have 1 P and then plus 4 more P's. How many P's do we have? That means that we have 5 P's. So now we have 5p and bring down the rest plus 8. We can't combine those two because this one doesn't have a letter. So that stays as it is, equals 2. And over here, we can't do anything else because this is a number and this is a letter. So it stays the same, negative 24 plus p. Pues now we're back to the same what we were working with. Letters con letters and numbers con numbers. Again, it doesn't matter what you start with. You can start with the letters, you can start with the numbers, you can move the 5p, you can move the 1p. It doesn't matter as long as whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side. Okay, so if you want to try it a different way, then the way I'm going to do it, you're more than welcome to. But at the end, we should be getting the same answers. Okay, so let me go ahead and start here with moving the 1p. I want to move this 1p to this opposite side, so I'm going to use the opposite sign, minus 1p minus 1p. All right, so let's see what we get. Positive p minus p, that goes away. I'm left with 0. And I'm left with 5p minus 1p. That gives me 4p plus 8 equals to negative 24. Okay, so I combine all my letters. Now I'm going to combine my numbers with numbers. I cannot move this one since this one's completely by itself. So all I can do is move the positive 8 to the opposite side. So I use the opposite sign. Oops, that looks hideous. I use the opposite sign. So minus 8 minus 8. Positive 8 minus 8, that goes away, that goes to 0. And I'm left with 4p equals to a negative 24 minus 8. Think of money. You owe $24 and then you owe another $8. So in reality, how much do you owe here? That means that you owe negative 32. You owe $32 or whatever. Or think about it as if they are the same sign, you add and you keep the sign. So you add those two numbers, 24 plus 8, that gives me 32. And then you keep the sign, negative. All right, and lastly, we have all our letters together and all our numbers together. So to leave the p by itself, since they are multiplying, what's the opposite of multiplying? Divide. So you divide by the same. Divide by positive 4. And we do it to one side, you have to do it to the other side. So at the end of the day, my answer is p equals to negative 32 divided by 4. That gives me negative 8. And there you go. Once your letter is by itself, that means that is your answer. So if I were to substitute in, instead of the p, if I were to put a negative 8 here, negative 8 here, and I do all the algebra, at the end of the day, I should be getting the same number on the left side and the same number on the right side. Okay, so that right there are the algebra skills that we gotta make sure we know how to do, because this is the most basic algebra skills that you're gonna need for the pre-calculus material. Okay, now I left this one over here for us to work out. In case you always wanted to start instead of with the letters, with the numbers, at the end of the day, we should still be getting the same exact answer. And then if you don't believe me, if you think my answer is wrong, just substitute it back in and see if you get the same number on both sides of the equation. Okay, but I don't want to make this video 50 minutes long, so let me go ahead and jump to the next section here. So now I want you guys to go ahead and try the following 4 problems right here. They look a little bit intimidating, but I want you to try them on your own. Okay, first get rid of those parentheses and then put letters con letters and numbers con numbers. Okay, make sure you double check your answers. And in a little bit, I'm going to be showing you the answers. But again, try it on your own. I want to know what you know, and you want to know what you do know. Okay, so take your time. I'm going to ask the substitute again to please put pause in the video and give them about 5 minutes to work on these. I'm relying on you guys that you are practicing these, because again, we cannot fall behind, and I want you guys to make sure you have the skills before we move on to the next material. Okay, so go ahead and put pause, and I'll give you guys about 5 minutes or so to work them out, or once you're done, let the substitute know, and he could play it on the video to give you guys the answers. Okay, try your best. All right, so you should have gotten the following answers for the 4 problems that you worked on. So double check, see if you've got the correct answers for all of them. I hope I didn't make a mistake. I don't think so, but if so, then maybe you guys can correct me. But again, double check your answers, and if you got one wrong, then make sure you circle it, bubble it in, and go back and see what you may have done wrong, and ask your neighbor or anyone to explain it to you if you need to. Okay, so you should have gotten those answers right there. All right, now let me just go ahead and jump to the last section. Again, if you need to go back to this, just let the substitute know so he can put the video back so you can see the answers. But let me go ahead and jump to the last section so that I can end this video and give you guys time to do your assignment. Okay, this last section is, we can always double check your answers by substituting. Just like the way I just showed it in the very beginning of the video. Let's say I told you, like the first problem here, it says, if negative 11 equals to 9 plus a, and I found that a equals to 20, is that true or false? I can always double check if my answer is correct by substituting in, meaning that wherever you see the letter, wherever you see an a, that means that you're going to put a 20 instead of the a. You're going to be substituting, you're going to be replacing. That's what we're going to be doing to be checking if my answer is true or false. So if I look at the first problem here, I have, let me change it here. I have negative 11 equals to 9 plus a. Instead of the a, I'm going to be putting in positive 20. So I have negative 11 equals to 9 plus, and instead of the a, oh, that looks horrible. 9 plus, let me double. 9 plus, and instead of the a, I'm going to replace it with the 20. And now let's check if my answer is correct. On my left side, I have negative 11 equals to, and what's 9 plus 20? That gives me 29. Is that true? Does 9 plus 20 equal to negative 11? No, right? So that's how I can see that my answer is false. That means that my answer is not 20. What answer should it be? Let's see, let's check it ourselves. Negative 11 equals to 9 plus a. If I were to solve for a, wanting to solve for a, all I have to do is move the 9 to the opposite side, right? To leave it by itself. So let's move the 9 to the opposite side. So I use the opposite sign, minus 9, minus 9. That goes away, 9 minus 9, that goes to 0. And what's negative 11 minus 9? Oh, that's negative 20 equals 2, and I'm left with the positive a. So a should have been negative 20, not a positive 20. So you see, if you have your answer incorrect, you will not be getting the same answer on both sides of the equation. That means that will be imbalanced. Your balance will not be straight. It will be all crooked and stuff. So you see how we can always double check our answers by substituting it back into our equation. Let's check the second one here. If 153 equals to 17x, and I found that x equals to 9, what is that true or false? So this one is a lot shorter. It's a shorter equation. I only have 153 equals to 17 times x. So instead of the x, I'm going to be putting a 9. Because it's telling me that if x equals to 9, well, instead of the x, I'm going to be putting a 9 there. But again, since we're multiplying, I'm going to want to put it in parentheses. So I have 153 equals to 17 times 9. Or you can also put it like that, since parentheses also means multiplication. And well, let's see. Let me bust out our calculator here. Calculator. And let's check. 153. I'm sorry, not 153. 17 times 9. That does give me 153. So does 153 equal to 153? Yeah, so that means that my statement here is true, because when I substituted in back my answer, it gave me a true statement. It means that my equation is balanced. It is equal on both sides of the equation. Okay, this is called substitution. So we can always be double checking our answers in this method. That is going to be very, very helpful with some of the pre-calculus material we're going to be going over. Okay, let's try the next one. If negative 3 plus 6a equals to 4 plus 4a plus 7, and I found that a equals to 7, is that true or false? So they're telling me that a is equal to 7. So to double check it, I'm going to substitute in the 7 in every single a that I see in my equation. So in this equation, I have 2 of them. So I got to make sure I substitute it into every single letter in my equation. So let's see, what do we have? Let me write it on this side over here. I have negative 3 plus 6. Oh, and then an a, since they're multiplying, I'm going to put it in parentheses. Instead of the a, I'm going to put a positive 7. And let me put it in a different color, so maybe that can help some of you. Instead of the a, I'm going to put a, oops, I don't know what that is. No. There it is. Instead of the a, I'm going to put the 7 in parentheses. So I have negative 3 plus 6 times a equals to 4 plus 4. Oh, I see another a. I'm going to put it in parentheses. Instead of the a, I'm going to put the 7. And then plus 7. Everything else stays exactly the same. All I did was replace the a with the 7. And now let's go ahead and simplify this. So remember, you first always remember your germ does, you multiply first. So in this case, I got to multiply the positive 6. I got to multiply the positive 6 times the 7 and the positive 4 times the 7. So let's bring everything else down. Negative 3 and positive 6 times positive 7. It gives me a positive 6 times 7, 42, equals to 4. And then plus a positive 4 times 7, that gives me a positive 28 plus 7. All right, so this is what we have so far. Now let's combine like terms on the same side. What's negative 3 plus 42? That's 42 minus 3. That gives me a 39. Equals to, and since there's more positive, the answer is going to stay positive, equals to 4 plus 28, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and then plus 7, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. Ooh, 39 as well. And yes, Ms. Ortega is using her numbers to count. Again, there's no shame on that. So again, since we got the same thing on both sides of the equation, that means that my answer is true. That means that my A has to be 7 in order for this to be balanced, in order for this to, the left side to be equal to the right side. And as you can see, we proved it right here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and skip the last example because I want you guys to go ahead and try these 3 problems right here. Again, you have the equation up here on top. And this is the answer that I'm giving you. Let me know, is it true or false? Does K equal to 7 on this one? Does X equals to 1 on this one? And does P equal to 5 on this one? Go ahead and double check it on your own. All right, you should have gotten the first statement is going to be true. The second statement is going to be false. And the last statement should have given you a true. So again, go back and double check any of this. If you have missed any of them, circle it, bubble it in so you can go back and double check it, okay? And make sure you master these skills here. Right, so that is going to conclude my video for today. I mean, I wish I could have been there with you guys. I feel like it would have been a little bit more effective. I hope this video helped you out in something. I hope if you learned something today, I will be so happy. But again, aside from that, you do have 2 assignments that you need to complete today. One of them is going to be let me show you right here, is this assignment with 4 problems. What you're going to be doing on this one is it's giving you an equation here and it's giving you all the steps that they did to solve it. And what they want you to do is to identify the errors. Somewhere along the way, they may have done a mistake, but still have gotten an answer. Your job is to analyze this information and see where may they have gone wrong to get the answer incorrect. And once you find the problem, then I want you guys to go ahead and work it out on this other side, work it out correctly and see what the correct answer should have been. Some of them may have an error, some of them may not. So make sure you double check, look at every single one of them and see what they did and see if you find the mistake for each and every one of them. And then once you find it, then again, work it out on the right side correctly the way it should be to see what the answer should be. Okay, that's a total of 4 problems for this assignment. And the second assignment is going to be a puzzle. Okay, so for the second assignment, you should have gotten, let me see, where is it? I have opened up a demo. Should be here maybe. Oh, it's right here. You should get this assignment right here. So again, it's just a bunch of solving. Again, I need you guys to make sure you practice this. And if you struggle, again, make sure you do your best to catch up on this because you need to make sure you have these skills set on stone before we jump into the pre-calculus, okay? And if you do not know this, and this is a moment for you to catch up and know how to work these out. Okay, so for this assignment, you're going to be starting in the start right here, solve this problem. And if your answer is a +4, then you go on to this one over here. If your answer is a -4, you're gonna go on and solve this one down here. Okay, use your color. If you have any color pencils, use to color code this. Or if you don't have a color pencil, just shade it in. But again, I want all your work done on the back of this sheet. Okay, so work on number 1, work it out, box it in, and then jump to the next problem and do it right next to that box. Okay, try to make it as neat as possible and do not forget to write your name. I'm going to want you guys to make sure you submit this by the end of the period because I'm going to be looking and seeing how you guys are doing on this. Okay, so you should have plenty of time to work on this. Do not procrastinate. Make sure you practice. And again, I have to see the work on the back on this sheet. If no work, I will not give you any credit, okay? So practice on these problems. And again, follow the pattern, follow the puzzle. And if you have any questions, again, you may ask your neighbors, but just be careful. Okay, so you have those 2 assignments done. Also, what I wanted to make sure I reminded you guys is that if you have not joined to my Google Classroom, I sent an invite to every single one of you on Google Classroom. So if you haven't accepted it, then make sure you do that as soon as possible. Okay, in the Google Classroom, I have assigned you a syllabus quiz that you should have done on the first day of school. So if you haven't done so, please complete it. And if you are new to my class and I haven't sent you an invite for any reason, then make sure you email me to ei@bisd.us and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, and same thing, if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to message me on Google Classroom or send me an email and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, hope to see you all soon and I hope this was helpful for you guys. Have a great, wonderful, good day. Make sure you work on those 2 assignments, okay? Bye-bye.